You know, being a franchise is extremely arduous because there's a lot of checks and balances. The government gets involved in your business, right? They want to make sure, are you legit? Are these numbers real? You then have to get audited financials, right?
Can't lie about
nothing, right? Look, if you're running a company right now where you're offsetting extra expenses, and when I say extra, I'm doing the air quotes, extra expenses, don't do that.
So many people get caught up in the narrative that, oh, things are crashing, I can't make money. Like in real estate, you can always get a deal. It's not like crypto or stocks where I don't get a better deal than you. We're both looking at the price today and we can choose whether or not we want to buy it. So you got to be really good at timing it if that's what you're going to do. Today, you're not getting any kind of better deal than someone else.
No, you can't call Netflix and say, hey, listen, I'll give you half.
I'll give you half for your stock price.
Right? That doesn't happen. We're in real estate. Your tongue will get you places. We've been friends since then. We've watched each other grow, watch our businesses grow. And you've been one of those people that I have looked at and thought, I love it when the good guy wins. I do, because I know who you are. I know who you are, like fundamentally. You're a good man, you're a Christian, you know, you're a person of faith, you're a good family man, you're a good dad, you're a good husband, you're all the things that you want to see in a role model for people. And so to see you get to the places that you've gotten to, and I know that you're going so much further, it reassures me that when you put good out into the world, you will receive it. And you know, I'm proud of you, bro. I'm really, it's really fun to watch what's happening.
No, I appreciate that, dude. It means a lot, especially because I had Pace here yesterday, and he was like, you know, Jamil, the reason that it works so good for him and I is he's like, I'm super trusting, but Jamil is such a good judge of character. And he's kind of like that filter for me, because I'll trust anyone.
That's true.
And Jamil, he's like, Jamil will be like, no, dude, like you cannot trust that guy. Like I know exactly how he is and everything. So to hear you just right off the gate instantly say that means a lot.
I mean it. And it's always, and that's, I think, why our friendship has lasted and will continue to grow, because you get that vibe, you get the energy of somebody, and you know, I know one when I see one.
I love it, dude. Yeah. So we got a lot of things that are happening. I mean, number one, you're speaking at the Tyke Summit, so I'm super excited.
I'm excited for it as well.
Yep, happy to have you there.
Coming on as a board member really soon here, so that's amazing.
By the time this launches, you'll probably already be there.
Yep.
So super excited about that. Number two, I mean, last time we talked, you weren't even able to talk about your TV show, but since then, you guys have become number one on A&E.
Yes, sir.
So super exciting for that. You know, your community with Astro Flipping just continues to grow, and you guys are just crushing it. Keegley continuing to grow, franchise into multiple markets. And dude, I mean, there's a lot going on.
A lot happening. Yeah. It is a blessing. You know, all of it has been a phenomenal ride, and I'm buckled up because it has its moments, right? It's got, like anything else in life, you always know that you're going to have days where it's all so incredible. And then you're going to have moments where you're going to feel overwhelmed. And when you have this much happening and this much success, and I'm sure you can attest to this, there's those days where I wake up and I'm like, I just need a moment. I just need to take a breath. And then, you know, I push through and I get to the end of the day and I think, oh, I'm really happy that I didn't lay down today. I'm really happy that I pushed through, because what an incredible day I had. And so, you know, with all the things that you just mentioned, the TV show has been a phenomenal opportunity for our family, our business, my friendship with Pace, Keegley in general. All of it has just been really fun. Like getting up every day and getting to play with your best friends and family. What could be better, right? Mm-hmm. But beyond that, the impact and watching Keegley explode and seeing, you know, recently I just heard that HomeVestor resold again at a 35x multiple.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And to see a franchise business in the real estate space do that, it's exciting.
That's super exciting for you guys.
Yeah. And so, you know, we're at just around 130 franchises. Okay. We had, we took a couple of them back for performance issues, but ultimately our franchises are really happy and they're doing well. And we're grateful for all of the support and all of the work and effort that they're putting into their businesses. And so watching the brand grow, watching Astro Flipping and all the students, and then their connectivity to the franchises and how that's all playing into each other, you really have an understanding that there is an ecosystem that you can create where one thing will feed the others. And that's what's happening. It's great to watch it all flow in a stream that really feeds itself.
Yeah. I was asking you this last time we were hanging out here in Miami, actually. And, it was like the TV show. I said, how do you feel about it after, doing it for a year and a half, 2 years? Pace shared his thoughts on, everything. Cardone shared his thoughts on, running TV shows. And one thing you said to me was, for me, it's a lot of work, but, the relationships we've made, everything that's come from it has been amazing.
True.
And you guys are now launching season 2, which is going to be premiering. So what are your plans with that? Because I know you're a comedian at heart and you love acting and you love doing that. So
yeah, I think I'm just, going to lean into it, right? Because the beauty of the TV show is that I do get to express in a way that I can't just do on social media. Mm-hmm. And yes, you guys might know me from the Genie ad or some, me wandering around in a forest, floating around like a monk, all the fun stuff that I've done, right? That's all cool, but it's like 30-second or minute-long clips. You don't really get an understanding. You think this guy's either a fool or this guy's kind of cool. Whatever it is, I'm happy that you have an opinion. The other side of that, though, is that you really don't understand much about me, and you can't get that information from a 30 or 60-second ad. Mm-hmm. What you can see in the TV show, and what I can't fake, is my sincerity, my love of real estate, the fact that I really enjoy being in a deal and running the numbers and underwriting and being a part of the hunt and being a part of watching something go from a derelict house to an incredible work of art. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a level of pride that you can hold in a job well done. And I can't say that there's anything in my life that allows me to visually see that other than the TV show. So for that, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, no, it's great, dude. I think for a lot of people who are watching this or listening, at the end of the day, it just matters about attention, right? Like, how do you go about getting exposure and attention? And I think there's a number of ways to do that. TV happens to be one that's super hard to get onto.
Correct.
So, however many years you end up doing it, it's like, man, you just got to make the most of it.
Yeah, you're a tumbleweed in that moment, right? And you're just gathering more. You're just gathering more twigs and gathering more, all the things. And, I've been able to strike a friendship with Tariq El Moussa in the process. And actually, him and I got to become friends, not because of TV, but just because of my ads. He actually reached out to me on Instagram and said, bro, I love your ads. And it was before he even knew I had a show, right? And so we connected on that, and since then have become friends. And this is a man who's done 11 seasons of Flip or Flop. He's got 2 shows. And mind you guys, part of the 11 seasons was with his ex-wife.
Yeah, they just kept filming.
They kept filming. And imagine the pressure and stress that one would go through going through a breakup and then having to professionally work together in that environment. And that when you're on a set like that, it's hours and hours and hours of, resetting and shooting and, breaking and lunch and the interview scenes and all of the things that goes into it. It's a lot. Mm-hmm. And so for him to have gone through 11 seasons of that, and then now he's on 2 new shows. He's doing Flipping 101 and then Flipping El Moussa's. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but Flipping El Moussa's with him and Heather. I mean, it's phenomenal, right? And, he has shown me, like a big brother would, what the path of television leads to. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
It can get very lucrative.
How so for you? Like, what would a path end up being like? You're like 2 years into this now.
Yeah, I'm 2 years into it. And of course, at 2 years into a reality TV show, they're not writing you checks, not good ones.
You got to prove yourself.
You got to prove yourself. You got to bring numbers. You got to do the things. But when it comes, in terms of just social credibility and being an authority in the space of real estate, when somebody clicks on my ad and they're like, okay, who's this dude? And they Google me. They're like, oh, he's got a television show on A&E. Okay, cool. Well, let me watch an episode of that. And then they do. And then like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Hey, let me go watch this VSL that he did about real estate. Mm-hmm. Okay, I really do believe in this guy now. Let me Google his company. Oh, wow, they're nationally franchised. I think I can trust him.
Right.
And then they become a family member. They become part of the community.
Right.
And that to me, it's like the whole puzzle piece, right? Because they got all of the things that they need to make a decision on whether or not they like me, trust me, and want to know me more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it makes 100%. I've said that all the time with social media, because most people obviously will never have a TV show, but we can all start making content.
Agreed.
And no matter what your business is, if you have some kind of content out there for people to see, you're going to be able to allow them to get to know you from whatever it is that first attracts them. If you just have a paid ad, a Genie commercial, or anything, they just hear about you. You know, the fact that they can Google you and see content about you is going to make the sale and them want to work with you that much better. So I think everybody needs to take the same principle of just get out there in some way or another. It doesn't matter if you're in real estate, if you're a plumber, if you're a roofer, everyone needs to get out there.
I think it's so important in this age right now where you have literally at your fingertips free opportunities to promote, free opportunities to share. If you're not doing it, one of two things, okay? You don't believe in yourself, or you're so crippled by the fear of judgment that it is going to destroy your dreams. Neither of those two things lead to anything good.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't. Fulfillment comes from being able to show somebody a path to success or show somebody a thing not to do. But you feel fulfilled anytime you're able to help another human being navigate life. And regardless of what your business is, when you can connect with people and resonate with them in a way that moves them, it's important that you do it.
Yeah.
And I think anybody watching right now, you know, you've watched Ryan, you've seen what he's been able to accomplish in his journey of sharing. But, you know, just think about how if you hadn't come across his content, you know, if you've taken action on any of his information, his courses, or anything, any of his businesses that he's involved in, you have seen a change in your life. Imagine if you hadn't done that. That's the piece. That's the part where I want people to think. Like, if Ryan didn't turn the camera on and get loud, where would I be? Mm-hmm. You have the exact same potential.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So at this point, I mean, what are some of your goals? I mean, like, you guys started out with just this business, this Keegley business, and all of a sudden you guys start doing a lot of deals. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was sometimes 100 deals a month, right?
Yeah.
And then you go recreate your systems into a franchise and everything else. Like, a lot of people are trying to figure out, hey, what's up with this real estate market? What are you guys telling your franchisees right now? How do you navigate this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the beautiful thing about wholesaling is that you don't expose yourself to tremendous loss when the market shifts.
Yeah. And
yeah, things slow down. Like, we had a couple of months there where our volume wasn't where it would normally be, but it bounced back. And it's bounced back in a way right now that, you know, we might not have the same number of deals, but our deals are bigger right now. And because our deals are bigger, because we're buying deeper right now, actually, we're doing better than we would have a few months prior to the market shifting. And I know that people might be looking at it and be like, wow, really? A wholesale business doing better than where it was? That's actually what you can do right now by taking advantage of the buying opportunities that exist out there. And we're really doubling down on that messaging with our franchises, because I'm literally watching sellers right now listed on the MLS take half. Half. So think of that, right? It used to be this model where if you wanted to get a wholesale deal, the best way to do it was to go off market. And the reason for that is you would maybe catch somebody who wanted to trade some equity for speed or convenience, or maybe they weren't, you know, all too understanding of what they had, or maybe they just were unsophisticated. Whatever the reason that people went off market, it was never my model. So I don't really know what drove people to off market real estate opportunities. I've always worked with agents and referrals and wholesalers and on market deals. But right now, if a seller has looking at the market as it is, interest rates are high, demand is plummeted, but you have to sell. You have to, for whatever the life reason is.
Right.
Relocation, health, a death, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. you will take what a willing buyer will give you right now. And if that's half, it's half. And that's the piece right now that I think if you're in real estate, you've got to be looking at these opportunities online. You've got to be going to the MLS and saying, if something's sitting here 30, 60, 90 days on market, first of all, why? Second of all, are they really motivated? Let's look at the listing history and see if there's been dramatic price drops. Let's look at the language in the listing and see, is the agent showing us any signs of motivation in the description? And then have a conversation with the person, find alignment with the realtor, and shoot your shot.
Yeah. I think so many people get caught up in the narrative that, oh, things are crashing, I can't make money. And it's like, no, dude.
No.
Like in real estate, you can always get a deal.
Of
it's
course.
not like crypto or stocks where you don't really get a deal. I don't get a better deal than you.
Right.
We're both looking at the price today and we can choose whether or not we want to buy it.
Right.
So you got to be really good at timing it if that's what you're going to do. Or you're just saying, hey, I'm a long-term holder. I believe Apple and Netflix are going to be fine for the long haul, which you're probably right. But today, you're not getting any kind of better deal than someone else.
No, you can't call Netflix and say, hey, listen, I'll give you half.
I'll give you half of your stock price.
Right? That doesn't happen because you're not dealing with emotions. You're dealing with publicly traded companies. You're dealing with shareholders. You're dealing with all of the regulations and all of the things that keep it standardized and level for everybody. We're in real estate. Your tongue will get you places.
Yeah.
And how you speak.
Well, and you can just go hunt for whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's deals everywhere.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, for me anyways, they're like, are you going to still buy real estate? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter what's happening. It's just my buy box changes.
Right.
Right. So yeah, the last couple of years, I was willing to buy very thin because I knew prices were going up. I knew it was going to be good. Today, I don't know where prices are going to go, right? They could flatline. They could stop. I mean, they could reverse interest rates tomorrow and, we could go back up. I don't know. But I do know I can get way better deals today than I could, 6 months ago.
Right. I mean, I've seen some pricing and some sellers accept pricing that reminds me of 2016, 2017 numbers. And I mean, you ask anybody in real estate if one thing that they wish they had is a time machine.
Yeah.
A recession, an engineered stall is what I think this really is in the real estate game.
Right.
But an engineered stall, this is your time machine. Yo, get in the DeLorean and go get your deal because you won't find numbers like this again.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, once they start lowering rates again at some point and, all of this passes through, it's just going to do what it's always done.
Right. And look at the other part, right? So what does a crash require? It's just a fundamental bottoming out where everyone's just like, F it, I'm out. We're done. What we saw in the real estate market in 2008 was exactly that. We saw a lot of fraud. We saw a lot of people who shouldn't have owned 8 houses owning 8 houses, right? And so when that happens, of course, you're going to get a massive inventory spike. You're going to get all of this elasticity and people aren't sure of what's happening. And then, you get defaults. You get people walking away. But looking at just, for instance, the microcosm of Phoenix, Arizona, okay? 2008, when the market crashed, we had near 70,000 listings on the MLS. Today, we have 18,000.
It's crazy.
And it was 20,000 last month. So we're trending down, right? So when you think about that, and this is a tough market, when the market doesn't have the inventory that is going to create a crash, it can't happen.
It's literally impossible.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah.
So all the folks that have the fear, I think what they're doing is they're truly buying into inaction. And what they want to do is they want to have a reason to sit still again.
Well, people want to make basically indecision seem like, oh, I'm just smart.
Yeah.
When it's like, no, you're just scared.
Yeah, you're making indecision a decision.
Yeah, man, I remember I came down to Phoenix maybe 2.5 years ago or so.
That's right, yeah.
And I was on Steve Trenning's podcast,
yes,
our good
sir.
friend, and he's like, you got to go check out Jamil's operation. And at the time, I mean, for those you don't know, he owns Keegley. And they are doing anywhere from 50 to 70 wholesales a month. And, I go to this operation, and it is just like, I don't want to say, it was like controlled chaos.
Yes.
There's like a
great way to describe it.
Yeah, there's people everywhere on the phone. It was like the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, are these guys all closing deals? Like, what's going on in here? Like, just so many things going on. And then, you're just sitting in your office and not a big office at all.
No.
Like, it looked like a closet.
It did.
And, you're just having a conversation and we're talking like, this is crazy, to see this type of operation, man. So
it is surreal, to be honest. Looking back at it, I was scrolling through photos in my memories in my phone. Love how iPhones do that. And I came across a photo of Keegley's first office, which used to be Sip Coffee in Phoenix.
Okay.
We literally began the company in a coffee shop. Why? Because we didn't want to spend money on office space. We had sorry guys, we got some puppies.
we got
some
3
puppies
dogs
here on the podcast. They're trying to steal the show from us. Venice, get out of here. So we were at a coffee shop. It had free Wi-Fi. They allowed us to hang out all day long. So we would just sit there. Finally, we grew. We'd hired like 3 people, and we couldn't just hang out at a coffee shop any longer. So we went to Josiah's living room. And the next photo was Keegley's first office being Josiah's living room.
What year was this?
This would be 2016, 2017. So late 2016, early 2017. Fast forward from there to the office you met me in, which we call it the Foot Fish office.
What does that mean?
The reason we call it Foot Fish office is because, as you could eloquently describe it, it was a closet. It was a really tiny office for the number of people that we have, right?
Right.
And so we're all crammed in this little space, but we're all enjoying it, having fun. However, when you put that many human beings in a space like that, it starts to smell like feet. So it smelled on good times of the day like feet, and then my neighbor would cook fish bombs in his microwave at lunchtime, and his exhaust would come right into our office space.
Oh, your commercial neighbor.
Yes. And so he would like warm up his food, and then our office would smell like fish. So it either smelled like foot or fish. So it was the Foot Fish office. Now we're in a really beautiful space, and we actually are moving to purchase another space. So the journey has been great.
Yeah, man, that is a funny story. Yeah, I walked in and I said, I don't know if I'm in a locker room or what's the deal, but we got some must going on here.
100%, dude. There's. I think Max Maxwell once described it as, I started to realize that there was like a common thread of my office sucking, because Brent Daniels was like, he had me on his podcast, and he came to the office. He's like, man, I like this. It's like humble. It's like real. It's like real gritty. It's like scrappy. And I'm like, okay. I thought it was nice, right? And then Max Maxwell came, and he's like, man, I just love how it's so guerrilla in here, how it's just so, like, you guys just don't give a f. You're just getting at it. You're just go. And I'm like, so these people leave, right? And I look at my business partners, and I'm like, does our office suck?
Are we getting dissed?
Yeah, like, does this place really, like, smell like? And so we had to really come to terms with the reality of the fact that, like, we were getting hardcore like dissed by everybody who came to our office. So,
and I didn't even mean to diss you on the podcast, but I was.
It's all good. It just goes to show that you really are what you think, right? People can come in and they can see. Like, on the outside, you come in, it says musty office. It's all these people. It's running around. They're doing stuff. But it's like the first thing that might hit you is the smell in the door, like just all the people crammed in the space. Yet, on the inside, and what's happening in our minds is that we're in this really high vibe, electric, beautiful environment. And it just goes to show that how you think is truly the reality you experience,
Yeah.
And it may not be the same reality other people experience, but what does it matter?
Yeah, you guys were getting results.
Exactly.
I think just the fascinating thing for anybody outside coming in is like, okay, man, these guys, they're killing it. Like, let's see what's going on. And then you walk in and you're like, huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's not what I expected.
Right. They should spend a little bit more on rent.
Yeah. Are they really making that much money? Like, what's going on here? So,
oh my gosh.
No, it was cool going down there, meeting you the first time, and then to see your guys' growth these last few years. With education, with now franchising Keegley's, with continuing to just do all the deals you do, and in this beautiful house that we're in now, like, props to you.
Thank you, man.
It's been just to see you from then to now. You look healthier. Everything about
I'm trying. Yeah, for sure.
So we'll talk a little bit about the franchises and stuff later, because I really want to know about that. Being as a guy who's got multiple companies, like, hey, how do I do that?
Yeah.
But before we do that, tell me a little bit about your story, dude. Like, how did you get to this point of hey, we have this wholesale operation doing, 70 deals a month.
Love to. So I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm an American Canadian citizen, so I'm dual. Born in LA. At 5, my parents moved us to Calgary, Alberta. I grew up there, and I grew up in a real, poor neighborhood, right? I didn't come from a lot, but my parents, man, they're the most loving, amazing people ever. So they just wanted the best for me. And my mom and dad both wanted me to be a doctor. It's a typical Asian thing. I'm East Indian, and so Indian African essentially. Both my parents are from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, but they got to Africa from British colonialism, which took Indians out of India and put them in Africa, right? And so that's my ethnic heritage. And so my parents, they come with this mindset of, you either got to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or a dentist, or some kind of high-end professional to have a
respected career.
Yeah, exactly. And so coming out of that, I've taken the MCAT. I've got a near 4.0 GPA in school, and I have this breakdown. I'm like, I can't be a doctor. Because I started talking to people and I asked them, how likely is it that I'm going to be a plastic surgeon? They're like, why the heck are you picking plastic surgery? I'm like, that is where the money is in medicine. If you're not this really highly specialized doctor, you're literally going to just make maybe $200,000 a year, right? And so I'm in this mindset of I don't think I'm in this for the right reason. Shouldn't be a doctor if I'm wondering how much money I'm going to make. Doctors should be doctors because they care about helping people's health, right? So I leave that. I tell both of my parents I'm done. I don't want to pursue this any longer. I break their hearts and I go into sales. So I'm a telemarketer at this point.
Okay.
I'm telemarketing for a telecommunications company, and I meet a girl there who is friends with another person whose family members had just started this media company, and they were struggling and failing, and they were failing so badly that they were going to have to shut their doors in a couple of months if they couldn't turn it around. I'm a talented salesperson, and so my girlfriend's like, go talk to these people. Maybe there's an opportunity for you there. I talked to them, and the company, their business was going through the yellow pages and convincing business owners that this thing called the internet was the wave of the future, and that the businesses should build a website instead of advertising in the yellow pages, or both, right? I'm like, cool, I can do that. So I start off at that company. I'm working commission sales. I bring in so many sales for websites that I end up leveraging myself to owning half the company, right?
Wow.
Because I'm
a sales guy getting half the company.
Exactly. And so I'm like, look, this company doesn't exist without me creating sales, so I want half. And they gave me half. And that was great until I realized that I was selling a website for $600 that cost us $700 to make.
So you're like, I'm now losing money.
I'm now losing every time I sell.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I am. And my business partner at the time, him and his father are real estate developers as well, right? And he's explaining to me, and I'm actually listening to him and his dad talk about this deal that they're doing where they're going to build a duplex and make $160,000 on the sale of this duplex. And for me, $160,000 is life-changing money, right? I ask how I can get involved, and they're like, you can't because you don't have any investment capital. There's nothing you can do here to be involved in it. But then I listen to them continue to gripe about needing more building lots. And I ask, what do you mean? What's a building lot? And they're telling me that they're taking these old bungalows, knocking them down. As long as the zoning is R2 and they're on 50 by 120-foot lots, they'll buy the house. And I'm like, maybe I can fit in there. So the next day I'm walking my dog, Mash, rest in peace, Mash. I'm walking my dog, and I actually live in a neighborhood where this development is happening, right? There's a rental that I actually tried to rent 3 months prior down the road that was $300 more money per month than I could afford. And it was still for rent. So I called the for rent sign. And I asked if she'd be interested in selling the house instead of renting the house. Her answer was yes, for the right price. I asked her how much she would sell for, $350. I asked my business partner what he would buy for. He says $400. So now I have a $50,000 problem to solve because I have no money, right? But what I do have is a knowledge that I can talk to people and I can get into the phone book, which is what I'm doing right now, talking to people to ask them about buying websites. And I go into the lawyer section and I start calling down all the attorneys. And in Calgary, Alberta, that's where property gets conveyed through attorneys out there. Mm-hmm. And I get all the way to S. David Steed, I'll never forget him, because he answered his phone. He was so fresh out of law school that he answered his phone himself. And I told him the situation, and he very quickly said, easy problem to solve. All you need are 2 contracts. One where you're the purchaser and or a nominee, and then the other where you sell the property, and then you bring those contracts to me, and I'll do the conveyance, and then I'll give you a check. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is all I have to do? I'm like, am I required to have a business license? No. Am I required to have a real estate license? No. Do I need any money? No. Is this real? Is this legal?
Yeah.
Yes and yes. Let's try it. And so, long story short, $50,000 check, actually $48,000 because I had to pay him some fees.
Right.
And I was off to the races, man. So at that point, I'm like, this is incredible. I go. 2008 happens. I had actually done so many deals from that point to 2008.
What year was that first one?
That was 2002.
So before you get into like what 2008 looked like, so in 2002, right, the internet, all that stuff is still pretty fresh.
Right.
There's no, YouTube or people
Correct.
teaching you what wholesaling is, how to do it. You literally just figured it out on your own.
I thought I invented it.
You're like, this is the craziest thing ever. Yes. I don't have to buy it.
Yes. And I now know it wasn't true that I invented it, but I'm like, man, I'm the smartest man in the world. This is so cool.
When I talk to people, a lot of them say, oh, yeah, Carlton Sheets was
Yeah.
like the guy that was telling people how to do it. And,
Right.
some of these other guys. So that's crazy, man.
So
Since
weird.
20 years you've been doing this.
20 years, man.
So what happens? You do this from 02 to 08.
02 to 08, I have a real run up. I make millions, but at the same time, it's that prestige thing I think that like Asians have, that I don't even have a job title. I don't even know what I do. Right? I'm flipping contracts.
Have you ever heard of has anyone used the word wholesaling? It
never wasn't even a real thing to me here.
When did you hear the word wholesale?
In America in 2012.
You're like, this is what I've been doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's like if you were a dentist back then in the in caveman days, but you were like the guy who everybody went to when they had a toothache.
Yeah.
And you just knew what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So that was me.
Then they're like, you're a dentist.
You're a dentist. And you're like, oh, baby.
I guess I am.
I guess so. So, right. So I guess that's what it was. But yeah, that's how I got my start. 2008 crushed us because, I wanted to have prestige. And because I couldn't even call myself any business title, what I did was convinced my family that we should take all the millions of dollars that I had made flipping contracts and start doing development projects. So in end of 2006, my sister and I bought 4 multifamily apartment buildings to renovate and do condo conversions in. And we had financing in place. We had pre-sales on our units. And then 2007 happens, end of 2007, and the credit crunch happens. All of the pre-qualified sales that the banks had approved, they now recalled. They now wanted to re-qualify because they're entitled to do that.
Right.
And the construction loan that they had given us on those buildings were based off of those pre-sales. So now that those pre-sales are no longer qualified pre-sales, what happens to the construction loan? They call it.
Yeah.
And so they basically called the loans on all 4 of those buildings. We couldn't debt service, we couldn't pay them out, and they bankrupted us.
Wow.
The saddest part about it is I had my mom and dad sign personal guarantees on those loans. And so not only did I take myself and my sister down, but I took my mom and my dad down as well. And they had worked blue-collar jobs their whole lives just to have a house. And now we're homeless.
Wow.
Right? So 2008, my sister, my mom, my dad, my 150-pound dog, our niece, my sister's husband, our cat, and I are all in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment.
Wow.
And it was like...
This is in Canada.
Yes, in Canada. And we're like, this sucks, And at the same time, I have a sense of humor, right? So I'm like, well, why don't we just get the heck out of Canada and I'll go try my hand at being a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles.
Were you serious?
I was serious.
To be a comedian?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, real quick, Canada was doing the same thing the U.S. was. They were just giving these fraudulent loans.
They were just giving people loans. And
I've never even heard of somebody from, so this is interesting to me.
Yeah.
So same exact problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lending practices, I don't think they were as loose in Canada as they were in the United States at the time.
Right.
But at the same time, I was using a private bank, and their rules are always a little bit loopier.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just to be able to, like, if I give you a construction loan based off of pre-sales that I qualified, and then within my documents, I have the right to then call those pre-quals back.
Yeah.
And then call that construction loan due. That I don't know how that can be legal.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
I don't like that. They didn't give us an opportunity. That felt like a trap, right? But anyways, it is what it is. That all of that pain led me to the most miraculous days of my life, because although we were all living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, those were some of the sweetest days that I have in memory.
Right.
Because I got to be with my mom and dad again. My mom was cooking Indian food. We were eating samosas. I was playing my dog. I can't remember us being happier.
Yeah.
And it was cool, and we were all sad at the same time. Excuse my language, but we were sad too, But we were happy because we were together.
Right.
And my parents and my sister, they never pointed their finger at me and said, You ruined us. They never did it. They said, we love you and we'll follow you, and whatever's next, we're behind you.
Yeah.
So it taught me a lot about unconditional love. It taught me a lot about what it means to be family. And, I'll trade the millions for those experiences any day of the week.
100%. I mean, I totally agree. For us, thankfully I wasn't doing real estate before 2008, so I didn't get hit like everyone else did. I got in right after, in 2010. And it was obviously still difficult in 2010.
Yeah.
You know how it was. But I look back at being married and when we were roughing it, young, didn't have money. And those are some of my best memories, where it's like, man, we're trying to figure it out. And then you look back and you're like, man, remember when we were going through this and we felt this way and now we're here? When we dreamed of the day we'd do this and now we are? So that it's cool, man, to see like something play out. And so I would just say that to encourage anybody who's going through a rough patch right now, think about where you will be, think about the steps, and you're going to look back at this time right now and be like, man, I remember what it was like. So
totally. And pay attention to the sweetness of the moments you're in.
Yeah.
Because there's sweet moments there's sweet moments in prison.
Yeah. No, for real.
There's sweet moments everywhere in life, right?
100%.
And so take note of the sweet moments.
Yeah. So you decide to go to LA as a comedian.
Correct.
What happens?
Well, I'm not on a comedian podcast right now.
No.
so
you're not on the Joe Rogan
I'm
podcast.
not on the Joe Rogan podcast, but I'll say this. I did okay. I tried my guts out. I ran the open mic circuit. I had a couple of opportunities to perform at the Comedy Store and Laugh Factory, and those were amazing. I went and found my niche in sketch comedy, though. So more than stand-up.
Which explains your ads.
Yes. Which 100%.
Do you come up with
those.
all your ads? Okay.
I do, yeah.
That makes sense.
And so I went through a training program, Upright Citizens Brigade, shout out, UCB. Amazing comedic training platform. They are incredible. They really teach you the science of comedy. And once you understand that comedy is a science, movies get ruined for you.
Everything's a science.
Everything is, right? It's all in threes. Comedy is in threes. Callbacks, buttons, learning how to have higher brow humor versus just poop and fart jokes.
Yeah.
Really just understanding what makes the human mind want to laugh.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Right? It's always to be surprised. If you catch somebody off guard, you can make them laugh, but then you start looking for the trap door, right? But anyways, I'm out in LA doing that. Meanwhile, I'm in Los Angeles and I'm looking towards Phoenix, and I'm like, wow, the market really got beat up in Phoenix. You can buy a condo in Phoenix for $25,000 that was $350,000 at the height of the market, and it's still renting for $850 a month.
Yeah.
Right? How does 25 grand ever get you $850 a month?
Yeah.
So that's what we started doing. My sister was working in, she was still back in Canada when I was in Los Angeles doing comedy. My sister was kind of like helping our family get financially back on our feet. She was supporting me while I was pursuing that dream as well. But as we started to gain a little bit more traction, a little bit more capital, we started buying property in Phoenix, Arizona, because you could just get it so cheap, and we could arbitrage our lifestyle from rent in Arizona. And so we're doing this from 2010, 11, and then, as you know, in that time, the majority of the deals are coming from short sales.
Yep.
And so in the short sale game, you write 50 offers and maybe 3 of them become fruit.
Right.
Right. And so what happened is, one of those 50 offers, you literally have to write 50 to get 3 deals. Well, we got a few more deals approved than what we could actually close on in 1 month.
Right.
And now I'm in this situation where I'm like, I have this like approved short sale. There's no deed restriction. The bank has no problem if I sell it. So I can legally sell this deal. I go into Craigslist and I just write an ad because I know that I can sell contracts, right? I learned that in Canada. Again, I don't know what the name wholesaling is, right? I don't even know what it is. And 15 minutes after writing the ad, I get a phone call from Tim Wynn, who is Mike Lima's business partner, who was originally Sean Terry's business partner. So like full circle how these like goats are like, they have their hands in so many people's careers. Tim Wynn calls me up and says, I'm going to drive by these properties. He does. And 15 minutes after that whole situation, he's like, I'll take them. And I basically marked each up $10,000, and after conveyance, was making $18,000 in like 15 minutes of work.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting in Los Angeles eating ramen noodles, right? Like thinking, what the heck am I doing here? Like I can barely scrape together dimes,
right?
And in Phoenix, you can make $20,000 in 15 minutes. And so I pack up 12/12/12, my birthday. I got in a U-Haul. I drove to Arizona, and I didn't look back. Right. So I get to AZ. I'm doing the same thing, short sales. Then we go into the foreclosure world. Properties are now out of foreclosure, but like homeowners are just selling. And I'm in this like wholesale. I start to learn what wholesaling is because I now know there's a term for it. And I get really good at building relationships. And my entire business is built off relationships. For those of you that don't know the story of Keegley, we do 50, 60, 70 deals a month, as Ryan had early described, but our marketing budget is 0.
Yeah. It's just all relationship-based.
All relationship-based business, right? So we get the majority of our deals from real estate agents and wholesalers. And what I teach in astro flipping is how to do that, how to leverage relationships to bring yourself to a high level of profitability without having a big marketing spend.
Yeah.
And I meet my 2 beautiful business partners, Josiah Grimes and Hunter Runyon, at a sandwich packing party. So what happens?
I don't even know what that is, but go on.
I'll tell you all about it. So I get invited to a party where this guy said, the night previous, this guy Torsten and I were chatting, and he said, Jamil, aren't you worried about our kids? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they're just going to get so entitled because we make money and they can have whatever they want. I'm like, yeah, I guess, that's a fear. Sure. It's like, well, I'm having a sandwich packing party at my house tomorrow. We're going to pack 1,000 sandwiches for homeless people, peanut butter and jelly. And then we're going to go out and hand them out at the park. You want to join? Bring your kid. I'm like, yeah, of course. Let's do it. So I go to this party so I can teach my children what it's like to pack sandwiches and feed homeless people. Like, let's do this, right? But at this party, these 2 young guys, Josiah Grimes and Hunter Runyon, are there as well because they're service-based, loving, Christ-following people, right? And they walk up to me and say, hey, we've heard of you, right? Are you that Jamil guy? I'm like, yeah. You did like how many deals last month? I'm like, 14. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, well, I have a lot of relationships, and I'm really talented at getting deals. And so they asked if I would give them an opportunity to sell some of my deals. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really in a situation right now with someone where I'm working with like pretty good. So no, but why don't you give me your phone number? And if it works out that I need your help at some point, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
And they did. And look at how God works, right? So my business partner at the time, he's like kind of aging out of the business, right? So he's done really well in his life, and he wants to spend his time on a yacht, not in the office answering the phone.
Right.
Right. And so But the thing is that anytime he would go to the Bahamas or go on a yacht, he wouldn't call me to tell me he was leaving town. He'd just off. He'd just go. He'd just leave, and I'd be trying to call the guy, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm in the Bahamas." I'm like, dude, like, and so I got frustrated, right? And in that one of those frustrating moments, I picked up the phone and I called Josiah and Hunter, and I'm like, you know what? Here's an opportunity. Here's a house. Sell it. And like the guys they're like, we got it. We'll send you an option. And let's go. And I'm like, great, I'll sign it. Let's go. So I optioned the property to them. 15 minutes after giving them the house, sold. I'm like, incredible. Well, I have another one. Give them another one. 15 minutes later, sold. I'm like, these guys are incredible, right? And so we loosely have this relationship for about a year where we're just doing deals. And I'm still kind of fluid between my ex-partner and these two dudes who I'm working with, until finally I break off with the other gentleman, and Josiah, Hunter, and I form Keegley. I had this concept in my mind where I wanted to build a nationwide real estate company that would have the potential of having an exit.
Yeah, I think, we're both on the same page with real estate. Yeah. It's like, we're not going to shut our businesses down because things are slow now. It's just like, hey, this is the time to reset what you're doing. Like for us, we don't wholesale exclusively. So we got flips that we bought that are going to be bad deals. And it just is what it is. Like, the last 2 years, we bought a lot of flips that ended up being okay deals into amazing deals. Right? So
you built cushion then.
Yeah, you can't just have only good.
Right. You're a baseball player. You can't bat 1,000.
Yeah, you can't bat 1,000, and you can't just get a bunch of lucky hits that we've been getting over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're gonna strike out. It's gonna happen.
Or worse, not even worse, but you're gonna hit it freaking perfect, and a guy's gonna just make a great play, and there's nothing you can do.
Right.
But tell me a little bit about just the franchise. Like, I'm curious, as somebody who's going to be, like my goal this coming year is to acquire a lot of businesses, and I don't plan to like franchise or anything, but maybe one day it's on the horizon. Like for somebody who's thinking about buying a franchise, doesn't have to be yours specifically, but just a lot of people here, I've talked about Houston's Hot Chicken franchise, who my buddy owns it. I think they're a great franchise to buy.
Yeah.
Like, what are some things people should know before buying a franchise?
I think, first of all, do you believe in the fundamentals of the business, right? For instance, I might not buy hot chicken because I don't like hot chicken. I like fried chicken, but I don't necessarily like hot chicken. I'd buy a Wingstop because I love chicken wings.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe in the product. Secondly, have they done something that is fundamentally different, and does it work, right? So you look at them, you look at the success. And are they front running? Are they doing something that's just dramatically different from the rest of the marketplace? And I think, again, you look at something like Wingstop, and they have. I don't see a competitor in their space that has branded themselves as well as they have, and has an offering as...
Yeah, I don't know if any like franchise chicken wings. Like, I don't even know if Buffalo Wild Wings is a franchise. Or
it's more like a sit-down restaurant. Yeah, where like Wingstop, you don't go in and sit down. You know what I mean?
You just get your stuff
and you bounce, right? Or you get it delivered. So I love what they've done. And so the thing about a franchise that really appeals to me is that somebody went through the heavy lifting for you, right? They made the mistakes. They trial and errored. They lost money. They spent money on R&D. They did the things that necessarily successful businesses have to do in order to succeed and to get there. And that costs a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. And if you are not interested in doing all of that, but you want to step into something that's ready-made, that can be very lucrative and allow you to express in an industry that you're truly passionate about, I think a franchise is an incredible opportunity, regardless of the industry, right? So is a Keegley franchise awesome? Yes, because I love real estate.
Yeah.
I would, if I was not the founder or one of the founders of the company, and I saw this opportunity to jump into wholesale, because look, wholesaling is not easy. If any of you guys have tried to do it and failed, you'll understand that. Most people who get into wholesale quit.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you see that that's the end result for the majority of people who get into it, then there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, and I think as somebody who started a lot of businesses, I mean, starting a business is really hard.
Yeah.
Like it's unproven. Nobody knows the brand. You don't have any systems and processes. Even if you have a great coach or mentor, you still have no proven track record of what you're about to do, right? I think on the other hand, if you have the capital, going straight into buying an established franchise gives you the highest chance of success, right?
I agree.
Because you have proven everything, you have brand equity, you have support behind you to make sure the franchise succeeds. Like they're invested in it just as much as you are, right? Because if you screw up their brand, they ain't going to be happy.
No, not at all. In fact, it's you pay even more attention to what's going on in individual offices because there is a dramatic impact to the business when one of the operators is off culture or isn't doing it the way that you would do it, right? And so, yeah, you're 1,000% right.
Yeah, I remember watching The Founder, one of my favorite movies ever. And he's opening up these McDonald's all over the country, and like one of them's like selling chicken sandwiches and tacos and random things. He's like, dude,
what are you doing?
This is not what we do.
Yeah.
And it's just true. Like if you're with a real franchise, they are not going to let you do the things that would hurt the overall brand because they know what works.
Right.
So with franchising as a whole, I mean, would somebody who buys, let's just say a Keegley franchise, would they have to be the ones who are going to operate it? Like it's not going to be a passive investment like some of these guys maybe say.
Yeah, not necessarily, because we have multiple franchises where there is a money partner and then an operator.
Okay.
And so it happens quite often actually, where somebody says, you know what, I believe in the brand, I believe in these people, I believe in what they're doing, but I don't have the time and I'm really invested in my own life and my own business right now. But I do have the money for the franchise fee. And I think you'd be an amazing operator. So let's partner together and I'll fund your deal. And it's happening all the time. So yeah, it happens. And we encourage it if people want to have that structure. In fact, we've got operators right now that want more units, that would love to, bring on a partner and say, hey, come in and partner with me and I'll open up another location. And some franchises are just doubling down and buying multiple units themselves. And others are going out and raising capital and bringing in financial partners to own multiple units. I think that shows a lot of buy-in, and because franchises are really difficult legality wise, I can't really get into the successes and whatnot of how people are doing. But what I can say is that when you see somebody come back for seconds, the dish the first time probably tasted pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
So for you guys as the franchise owners, what do you like? What's the end goal? Like, how many do you guys want to open up?
Yeah.
Is there plans to exit? How's that all playing out?
Well, there is a cap on our FDD. So it's 660 franchise units can be sold. And, we're maybe 5 years away from that. So there's no, I know we'll hit it, and it could be sooner, with the TV show and the way it's going, maybe it's 3 years, maybe it's 4. But let's just say it takes 5 based off of our track record and our performance to date. So 5 years from now, what does it look like? Well, we've had conversations about an exit. At the same time, we really care about the culture, the people, and the people that invested in the business. And many of them invested in me. Mm-hmm. Many of them invested in the brand that I've been able to bring to the Keegley franchise and just name by being who I am. And that's really important for me to preserve, and really important for Josiah and Hunter and Rahima. They all want to see the culture of Keegley remain the same. Mm-hmm. And so, an exit may not be the best strategy for us. Maybe going public could be a strategy. I was
going to say, have you thought about that?
That would probably be the more likely opportunity for us.
How would that affect franchisees if you were to go public?
I think obviously you bring in shareholders and there's more decision makers in the process, but ultimately, if you choose a good board and if things happen and go around the way that you want it to go, I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to everybody because you've got more liquidity, you've got more opportunity to just gain more exposure and do bigger things. And so I think that ultimately, when you have access to more capital and you're doing more, there's no way that doesn't benefit everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great great idea, especially to stay with the business.
Yeah. It's my baby, man. Like, it's like, for me, it's like that almost feels like, hey, man, so, you know, once your kid becomes 18 years old, you can cut him off and like walk away. And I get I've seen some parents do that, right? And it's like, they may not be super happy with that decision, right? And so I'm the kind of parent that says, hey, you know, I want to be in the life of my child or my baby forever, right? And so I really feel like that about Keighley. Like the way that this thing became what it is, it's near and dear to me because it was a part of me.
Yeah.
And so I want to run it through. I want to be with it until my batteries run out.
So speaking of kids and family, how is that running, you know, so many things? People ask me this all the time. They're like, dude, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Right? How do you make content, run businesses, do all the things you're doing? How do you do it?
Well, I have an incredible wife, man. Like I could just cry right now thinking about how wonderful of a woman she is. She has my back all the time. And the thing is that in a life like this, where you've got a lot of attention and a lot of things coming at you and you're always traveling or you're here or you're there, and there's just so many things pulling you away from your home. You have to have a solid individual at home in order to operate at 100% out there in the world, right? I could not be Jamil and worry about my wife might not be at my house when I come home.
Right.
Right? Like I could never operate like that. Because honestly, dude, if I had to make the choice, I'm picking her.
Yeah.
Right? I'm picking home, I'm picking her, I'm picking kids.
Yep.
And so when that is how I feel, and she knows that, right? And my kids know that. They've been very, very fair with me and letting me just go out there and build this and supportive. Like I have so much love for my family, and my wife, she never gives me a hard time. And sometimes, you know, I almost feel like she could give me a harder time, right? But she so wants to see me realize this dream. She wants to see me realize my full potential as a man, as a provider, as a business owner and entrepreneur, that goal of mine is a part of her DNA. And it's incredible, man. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah. Speaking of provider, I think you were telling me, and Pace might have told me too, that you just bought a beach house.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
Right in Marina del Rey on the water. Incredible place. I'll give you the keys anytime you want to go and visit.
All right. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So at this event, right, we're here with Cardone, a lot of big players in the room and everyone else. I can't help but like be here and think about all the things I want to do when I get back. What are you taking back from here?
Man, that's a great question. You know, every time I'm around Grant, my mind expands, because you really watch a guy who moves around in life without limits. Every time you hear somebody throw a number out at him, it's like, it almost irritates him that it's so small, right? And it's like, you could say $1 billion, he'll say, why not 10 billion? You know, and it's, if that's how he is, and you see that this is who the man is, right? Then I understand that 10X for him wasn't a gimmick.
No.
It's actually his hardwire. It's who he is. And so it makes me want to think bigger. It makes me want to be bigger in life. And even though like our lives are big right now, we see a giant like Grant in the world moving and operating at a high level with integrity and doing a great job of it. And his family is intact and his health is intact. When you see a man accomplish that, it shows you that you don't have to settle. You don't have to settle for a subpar family. You don't have to settle for a subpar health. You don't have to settle for a subpar business. You can have it all. And I think what I'm really taking away from this is that I'm still got to double down. Like I've lost 43 pounds in the last few months.
I can see it, dude. You look great.
I'm working on it. You know, obviously I got a long way to go still. I'm still trying to lose weight.
But isn't part of that TV, you can't lose the weight.
Well, part of that was the fact that I stayed plump as long as I did. I had to for my contract.
Yeah.
But in the off season right now, I'm allowed to, get as different looking as I possibly can in the time, right? And so I intend to lose 30 pounds between now and when we start filming again. And I will probably look different in season 3 than I'll look in season 2. And I probably will look a little different at the end of the episode on every one of the episodes because I had lost some weight throughout, right? But the fact is that I am really taking away from this just how you can be well-rounded, how you can go all out in all aspects of life and succeed at it. And so, I leave here wanting to do more in my businesses. And, because what we're doing right now at this launch that Grant's putting together, this unbreakable challenge that he's got, it's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole concept that the next year is going to be a painful year for a lot of people, it's real.
Oh, yeah.
It's real. Yeah. And so I'm grateful to be in the conversation. I'm grateful to be able to be a part of what you're going to be doing and what Pace is going to do, and Cody and the rest of us as being a part of this conglomerate that's going to help people recession-proof themselves and make themselves unbreakable. I mean, that's big, right? It's just, you can have it all and you really can have it all and help people at the same time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Before we got on the podcast, you were talking about, man, one of the things I want to tell people is about when you start a business, thinking with the end in mind. And that's something that I have thought about a lot with all of my companies, right? Because most people, they start a flipping or wholesale company and it's a hustle. Like, first off, they're the only ones doing it. It's not sellable. But then you reach, I guess, the second level of it where, it's pretty systematized and you've got processes, you're making money, and somebody may buy it, maybe. But there are very few that are franchisable and that are, truly that much systematized where it can work nationwide and you have the processes to go train other franchisees and all this stuff. Like, I know what I teach can work nationwide. We got students across the country, but I don't have a franchise model where, my company, Home Run Offer, can be sold nationwide, at the moment anyways.
Sure.
Because I never planned for it to be that.
Right.
For me, it was always, hey, let's make money. All right. Hey, all right, great. We're making money. Let's make more money. Okay, we're doing that. Great. How do I remove myself? Okay, great. Like, at this point, I am removed, which is amazing. I can come here, I can do podcasts, and we're still getting deals, making money. But even if I were to ever sell Home Run Offer, it's still just my operation, and whatever. It sells for whatever it sells. It's not going to be anything crazy. But I look at what you've told me off camera, and you have Keegley, which, is you built it the same way, right? To just doing deals, making money. And then you took it nationwide with franchisees. Instead of you saying, hey, I'll do personally, hundreds of deals a month with my own franchise or my own company. You said, you know what, let's equip other franchisees to let them do, however many deals per month. And then, we'll have franchise fees. We'll take a little bit of revenue. And I look back at it now and I'm like, man, that was genius of them because it's a win-win for everybody. You're impacting their lives, the franchisees, plus it should be less work for you because, it's their business at the end of the day. You're giving them all the tools, the support, everything, but they still need to make it happen. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you explained the coffee the coffee shop story of how you guys started. We talked about the musty office. Yeah. But what ended up happening, from the 50 to 70 deals to becoming a franchise?
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my business partner, Josiah, for that because, of course, in my head and in my heart, before we started Keegley, I had this idea that I wanted to build this big nationwide real estate wholesaling company that I could one day sell.
Yeah.
How I was going to do that, I had no idea.
Right.
Right. There's that book, right? Who, Not How.
Yep.
So
great book.
Great
Dan
book.
Sullivan.
Right. Dan Sullivan. Amazing man. He didn't even write it.
So he found the who.
He found the who, right? And so I have this idea, but there's no how in me, right? There's no how. I don't have the knowledge. But my beautiful business partner, Josiah, is a genius, right? This guy is just a fantastic man. And he immediately understood the vision of what that could be, and saw, you know what, Jamil, we're looking at this company right now is doing, 8 to 10 million a year in revenue. Why don't we take this concept? Why don't we take these systems that we've built and document them and franchise this? And I'm like, can you really franchise a wholesale company? And then
Not many people have.
The only one I've seen really is the Homevestors, right? And they're fantastic, right? They've done a great job. And why not? That makes sense. Let's go. Like let's do what Homevestors did. Sure.
Yeah.
And so that was the undertaking, and it was a 2-year process, Ryan. It was like, being a franchise is extremely arduous because there's a lot of checks and balances. The government gets involved in your business, right? They want to make sure, are you legit? Are these numbers real? You then have to get audited financials, right?
Can't lie about
nothing, right? And not that you would, but like there's just no, like you have to show it. Look, if you're running a company right now where you're offsetting extra expenses, and when I say extra, I'm doing the air quotes, extra expenses, don't do that. Right?
Yeah, you got to show profitability.
You got to show profitability. You have to actually pay taxes. You cannot, this isn't about how can I make the most money. This is about how can I show the most compelling story? How can I have a compelling story that other people will want to be a part of, right?
Well, the story, and then also show the growth, right?
Exactly.
That is huge for companies. They're looking at, where were you at 3 years ago? Okay. Are you growing?
Right.
So
right.
I think there's a ton of things to look at. I want to pick your brain about what the 2-year process looked like.
Sure.
But before we do that, let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. One of the best ways to get off-market real estate deals is through cold calling. And if you want to reach as many people as fast as possible, then you need Batch Dialer. With their predictive dialing technology and built-in CRM, Batch Dialer is one of the top dialers in the industry. You can switch between single or multi-line dialing, as well as do voicemail drops and call recordings. And for being a listener of The Ryan Pineda Show, you'll get a 7-day free trial. Just go to batchdialer.com/Ryan. Once again, that's batchdialer.com/Ryan. Now, back to the show. All right, so you decide you want to do this process, and Josiah sounds like he was the one who did the undertaking of it. He was the who.
And Hunter.
Yep.
They did a lot of that stuff. Josiah came with the vision. Hunter came with a lot of the grit. Because an FDD, if you know what the word means, it's a franchise disclosure document.
Okay.
So the first thing is you engage an attorney who is skilled at franchising, and you tell them what you want, and they look at your business and they say, is this franchisable or not? Right? They're going to be like, hey, this isn't franchisable because you're the only person who brings in any revenue, right? So if that's happening in your business, you're not franchisable. But if you have systems and processes in place where one person can leave and another person can come in and that operation can continue, that is possibly franchisable. So the attorney came in, looked at our business processes, and gave us the opinion that, yes, you're franchisable. Then we had to go through the undertaking of creating the franchise disclosure document. And this is the public offering, basically. This is what we are giving to people as the full-on opportunity. This is how we're going to do business. This is the way we do business. This is what our numbers look like. These are your responsibilities. These are our responsibilities. This is what happens if we don't keep up our end of the responsibilities. This is what you pay us. This is what this looks like. And if you like this, now take this to your attorney. Now take this to your accountant. And then sleep on it for 14 days. And then we can be business partners.
Right.
Right. And so it's an extremely long, arduous process. Writing the FDD is like writing an epic romance novel.
Yeah, I hear you. So it took you 2 years to do this FDD,
Yes.
and you guys finally complete it, and you start selling franchises.
Correct.
And how many do you have today currently?
Currently, we have 60 operating. We have 150 we have commitments for up to 150 by the end of 2021. Now, whether or not that actually if they all close and fund we'll see. But we do have a buyer for that many units that are slowly closing. 10, 11 units a month. So it looks like
it's one company that's
it's
buying
one
that
company
many.
that's bought a lot, but then we have a ton of individuals as well.
Mom and pops.
Correct.
So obviously the buyer who's buying that many, they got deep pockets, but the mom and pops, is it something they have to come in with their own cash and credit, or can they get like an SBA loan? How does that work?
Yeah, there's all kinds of financing in place for it. We have lenders. We also finance depending on who you are and how we feel about you.
Yeah, because you guys are doing profit share. So,
Right.
It's in your best interest to pick. Because, are you guys market exclusive with your franchisees? How does that work?
So it's not specifically market exclusive, but it's territory exclusivity. So, and the way that our FDD reads is there can be one franchise unit per population segment of 500,000.
Got it.
So, for instance,
Vegas could have, 3 or 4 people.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
But that's not a lot, considering when you look at how many home investors are in Vegas.
Oh, I know. I mean, there's 10 home investors.
Right.
So how does it work with like leads and stuff? Like if you generate a Las Vegas lead, walk me through what happens.
Love it. So the lead source for us is mainly our wholesaler relationships, right? So what we do is every month we deliver new wholesaler relationships to our franchisee. We also continuously add to and build their buyers list. As you know, a buyers list is like a living.
I've bought deals from you guys.
Yeah, it's a living, breathing organism. It has to be maintained and nurtured.
Yep.
And so those leads come in from wholesalers. Our buyers are real. And then every month we continue to deliver them. We also have a direct-to-seller model, which we're implementing right now. So just like home investors, where we make the phone ring, the same thing happens with that.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's different
Yep.
than what you guys have been doing. So that's cool. So, I love seeing it. You guys are selling the franchises. Is there a plan to potentially sell Keegley as a whole or take it public?
Public is where we're looking right now. Josiah is definitely in that headspace. We've had some conversations, about a possible exit, but when you really love your kid.
Yeah. I thought about that too. Like, you build businesses and they are your baby.
100%, man.
And it's like, man, even like right now, I have enough money, it's not going to change what I do if I exited a company like it's not like I'm going to go buy even more stuff. Right. So what goes through your head in that where you're like, man, what would I even do afterwards?
Ryan, you took the words out of my mouth. Like, what would I do? I get my value. I get my worth. I get so much satisfaction on a day-to-day basis of just walking into that office and seeing the faces of the people in there who are like benefiting from this organization and this community, that it would worry me that if somebody else came in, like I actually asked the question to Gary Vee himself, and because there was a point where we were looking at taking on venture capital, and I had the opportunity to meeting Gary Vee because of Max Maxwell, and I asked Gary Vee straight up, should I get venture capital? And he said, you are in the business of flipping paper contracts? Yeah. How would you feel if your company got flipped like that? Like, explain that. He's like, when venture capitalists come into your company, they're looking at the parts that make money, and the parts that don't, they strip away and they flip them. And so understand that they're in to make an ROI, and that the organization, that the culture and the company that you built has nothing to do with it, their ROI. Wow. They look at the most profitable pieces, they extract that, and then everything else falls off.
Wow.
And right then I realized that VC wasn't the way to go.
No, you want control.
I want control. I want to maintain that, because
it's not all about just pure ROI and having the best.
There's people.
Yeah.
It's people, man. Like those families, my head disposition guy made $40,000 last month.
Crazy.
One staff member, you know what I mean? And I have multiple staff members like that are crushing it, that are making more money than I ever made.
Right.
You know, I even like my relatives who are doctors don't make that kind of money.
No,
right?
not at all.
And so when I get to have that impact on people's lives, you know, I seen a guy come in where he was just wearing the same clothes every day, and now he's wearing a Rolex.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the VC ain't gonna let him make that much money.
No.
I'll tell you that.
No chance. They're gonna keep that.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot, man. There's a lot that I'm looking at, and I think public's the way to go.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm with you. So speaking of that, right? We've also talked off camera about, you know, going niche versus going broad.
Yep.
And you have gone the very niche route, right?
Super niche.
When we think about real estate, or when we think about business and finance and money, like there's a lot of ways, right? You got real estate, you got stocks, you got crypto, you got entrepreneurship, you got social media. Like there's a million ways to make money. And then, you know, you pick real estate, and then there's like all these sub niches. There's flipping, there's wholesaling, there's Airbnb, there's rentals, there's multifamily.
Real estate agent.
There's a million of them. And so you go, all right, we're wholesaling. But then you go into this even more niche of wholesaling, you know, just co-wholesaling. You're not even trying to do direct market. Well, now you are, but, you know, every time you guys are just known as people who can co-wholesale really well. So you went really niche and completely dominated, you know, got to where you're at today, and just mastered the process of that. And then we were talking off camera about me, where I'm like, hey, you know, I want to take things to a certain point, and, you know, I want to do other things. I want other companies. I want to talk about, you know, I love talking about real estate, but at the end of the day, I have many more passions as far as business is related, and faith and family, and just, you know, balance and mindset, which we'll talk about mindset here later. What are your thoughts on that for somebody who's thinking like, man, should I go ultra niche or should I go broad and not as deep?
Man, that's a great question, Ryan, because, you know, I'll tell you my honest truth, right? Because I'm a big supporter of you. I'm a big fan of yours. And I'll tell you, I've been watching your meteoric rise, which has been not only like fun to watch, but also extremely inspiring, right? Because I've seen you come from, as a person that I know through real estate, right? I only known you through your wholesaling business, and to start, that's how I meet you, right? Yep. But now I get to see how much of a broad, deep person you are. That you're like, and more of your story, like you were flipping couches, you know what I mean? Like you're a legitimate entrepreneur. Like you're not just a real estate guy. You're all things entrepreneurship, and so I think that if you have as dynamic of a mind where you can be that high level in multiple things, then by all means go broad. I am a very interesting person because I have ADD, and I'm unmedicated ADD, right? So I have this issue of getting so hyper focused on one thing that everything else around me disappears, right? Which makes me a great meditator. It's, but at the same time, it also makes me a complete jerk because like my wife will be trying to have a conversation with me, and if I get distracted, I've left the room. Yeah. Right. Or I'll be like in something, and like the whole world could be destroyed around me, and I'll be in that thing because I'm so hyper focused. Right. So I think that for me, because that's my mentality and that's how I am as a person, going super niche in the business made sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Because I couldn't juggle more than what I have, you know? But if you have like, let me ask you this question. When you are doing work, can you listen to music?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you listen to music, maybe even have the TV on?
Yeah.
Can you listen to music, have the TV on, and pay attention to your child?
It starts to get difficult.
But that's like 5 tasks, right?
Yeah.
And so none of those things could happen for me.
Yeah, you're
Not
like, you got to turn everything off.
Everything is off, like, boom, I'm like, focused, right? So it makes sense to me that you have this capacity to go broad and do it at the highest level that I've seen. Like, you are one of those, like, unicorn dudes that comes out of the gate flying, explodes, and then also does it really well and knows what he's talking about, right? I haven't seen a Ryan Pineda sucks video, right? Like I haven't seen that. Like, or Ryan Pineda doesn't know what he's talking about. Like you don't see that, because when you listen to you or you talk to you, you're like, bro knows what he's talking about. Like he's legit, right? So, and it's like your capacity to do that is the reason why I think you do well at a broad range. And so I think for the viewer or the listener, whichever we have right now,
right,
your capacity to self-analyze what your key strengths are and how you are as a person. Are you hyper-focused, or are you able to multitask? And in your multitask, when you do multitask, do you do all those tasks well?
Right.
Can you listen to music, watch a TV show, and rock the essay?
Yeah.
Right? If you could do those things like that, bro, go broad, because God made you that way. He made you for that purpose.
Yeah.
But for me, the way that my biology came out and the way that my spirit is, I have to be hyper-focused for it to be worthy.
No, dude, that was, I could not have said it any better. You know, people have asked me that, and it's a very common question of, man, should I just focus on one niche or go broad? And I think your personality does play the biggest role, as you alluded to, because there are people like yourself and, you know, others who they have to do one thing.
Yep.
And then there are people that are go absolutely crazy doing one thing, like myself. I get bored so easily, especially when I reach a point in, say, a business or a venture where I'm like, all right, this is successful. You know, I've made it what I want it to be, and, you know, let's go to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm personally a big believer in the 80-20 rule.
Right.
And for me, I know that, like, I could put 20% effort and get 80% of the results in, like, a lot of different things. For instance, though, to reach the next level that you guys have achieved in franchising, I would have to devote significant time to building Home Run Offer to do that. And that is that extra 80% of time. But, you know, the results will be very good.
Sure.
So I think it really just depends on your goals. It depends on your personality.
Yep.
And it depends where you're at in your life. Like,
100%, man.
Just what are you fully capable of? And I think you guys, I think the biggest thing is just gaining self-awareness of who you are.
Yep.
And that's something you actually, you know, have been talking about with your meditation routine and mindset and stuff. And my guess is the meditation gives you a lot of self-awareness.
Absolutely. You know, I will be 1,000% transparent with our viewer and listeners. I've had multiple second chances in life, right? I have not always been the best person. I have not always been the best to myself. And because of that, I had to really be honest with, like, you know, who am I? You know, why am I here? Why am I in so much pain? You know, why do I feel the need to act out? Or why do I feel the need to, like, roll with these people? Or why did I feel the need to numb? You know, what's the, like, the trigger? And it comes from forgetting that we're connected. It comes from forgetting that our source is within us, you know? And I think that's the biggest lie that we've been told as people, is that we don't have God in us, that we aren't special. Every human being is so special, is so powerful, is so meaningful.
Amen.
And is connected to each other. Bro, you're my brother. Like, you're my brother. Like, you guys, and you're my sister listening. Like, you don't understand how connected we are. And once we start to remember that, and once we start to harness the power of our connectivity, there is nothing you can't do. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a dream, there is a human out there who can bring that to you.
Who, not how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So getting into that capacity to find a home in that space of stillness, that in your source. You know, if you're a Christian, in Christ. If you're a Muslim, in Allah. If you're Jewish, in Moses or the Torah or whatever it is that the Kabbalah, whatever it is, part of Judaism you're following. I mean, whatever your path, if you truly, truly, truly look at the essence of all spirituality, of all faith, the bottom line teaching is that we are one. We are one. We are all one. And we have the ability to bring towards us exactly who we need to take us to the next level in life, to give us the abundance we need. You don't see animals out there, birds, having anxiety about where their food is going to come from. They know that God provides it.
Yeah.
Right? And we are the
There's
same.
a Bible verse that talks about that.
Right? We're the same.
Yeah. Why have any worry in the world? Like, don't the birds eat every day? You know, they don't worry about when their next meal is going to be, yet you as humans who God loves so much more have to, like, why do you have so much anxiety? Do you think the birds are anxious?
It's because we forget.
Yeah.
And if you look at the root of like the why is because we forget. It's because we forget that we have the Lord in us, that God is inside of us. God wants us to be happy. God wants us to be fed. God wants us to have abundance. But we forget God. We forget God in everything we do. And then we find God in booze, or then we find God in girls, or then we find God in money, and then we find God in house, and then we find God in this. And you know what? All those things disappear.
Yep. 100%.
And so
that's why one of the big things I always talk about on this podcast, I talk about faith a lot. And for me, it has always been about balance in family and faith and business and, you know, self-development, everything. You know, like, you cannot be lacking on one. For those of you who don't know, I've got an acronym called RAISE that I really preach. And I have a planner called my RAISE Planner. You guys can download it completely for free at ryanpineda.com. But it stands for relationships, assets, intellect, spirit, and exercise.
Love that, dude.
And
love it.
I do all 5 of those things like we're talking about. And I think no matter how much money I've ever made, I can tell you, because I've been a Christ follower, because I've always been focused on my health and my wife and my kids, the money, I'm being so real that, like, I have no more joy today than I had, 5 years ago. It's the same amount of joy, because the money is just like a fraction of what makes fulfillment in life.
1000%, bro.
Yeah.
1000%.
So, as we wrap up though, tell me about the meditation. Like, what is the routine? You said you've been doing something really strict.
Yeah. So, again, for the listener or viewer, so I started meditating 5 years ago, and I'll be honest with you, I started with a hangover.
It's all
because I was alone. I felt alone. I felt sad, and I was just like, didn't know where I was going or what was happening, you know? But I knew that I wanted more, that I needed God, that I needed to find something better. And so I started with a hangover, and it was 5 minutes. And then you know what ended up happening? The booze fell off. It left my life because God knew it didn't need to be in my life.
Yeah.
Right. I found that bliss. I found that joy from something else, not a chemical, from my own spirit. Right.
Yep.
And so every day, it started off at 5 minutes, and then it went to 10 minutes. And now I meditate 30 minutes to an hour every single morning. I wake up, actually typically don't even leave my bed. I'll meditate right in the bed. Sometimes if I'm feeling super groggy or I may fall asleep, I'll exercise first and then I'll meditate.
Yeah.
But it is a daily non-negotiable for me. I'll be also honest, have I missed meditation days? Yes. Have those days been completely sucky? Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, I'm not the same guy.
No, your morning routine is so important, and I preach it all the time. I've had the same morning routine, very similar to you, for 5 years. Now, my morning routine's a little different. For mine, it's also an hour, but 10, 15 minutes of that is in prayer. Another 15 minutes is reading my Bible. Another 10, 15 minutes is journaling in my planner, and then another 15 minutes is just kind of hanging out, reflecting, and thinking about the day and the things I got to accomplish, and then hitting the gym.
Yeah.
So I literally do that every day, and I can tell you, it's a non-negotiable. And just like, I think too many people with a morning routine, they think it's optional, and so they're like, I'll just sleep in today.
Yeah.
I'll skip the morning routine. For me, it's like, no, you would not just think that that's okay for work.
Right.
It's a non-negotiable.
Yep.
And you have to treat other aspects of your life the same way you would treat your job.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
In fact, even higher priority than that.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Because
I've been late to work because I needed to make sure I did my morning routine.
Yes, sir.
But I'm also the boss, guys, so that kind of helps.
He's also the boss. But like even then, you know, like you became the boss because you were the boss of you.
Exactly.
You know, you don't.
We need to make that a shirt.
Yes.
I'm the boss because I'm the boss of me first.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
Like you are the boss of you, and because you're the boss of you, you can now be the boss in life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we just have to learn it. They don't teach this to us in high school. They don't teach it to us in college. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame that like life isn't taught the way that it needs to be lived in its highest way.
I'm with you, dude. I'm with
Right?
you, man.
They
Well,
teach
that's
us
why
to
we
memorize. They teach us to just regurgitate.
I think it's going to change as things, you know, social media and things evolve. You know, I think kids are way more in tune with YouTube and podcast and all of these forms of content that are teaching them the things that school does not. So, and we just see it like right now. I'm at an event and I just see these 17, 18-year-old kids making $20,000, you know, flipping or wholesaling a house. I'm like, holy crap, how did you learn? Like, they're like, dude, I've been studying this since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, when we were 15,
I was a nut.
nobody was telling us about wholesaling or so it's a different time. So I do think though that is going to be on the verge of changing. So I'm excited for that.
Also, our role models are evolving too. Like you said, you see these young kids that their role models are entrepreneurs.
100%.
You know, whereas like for me, you know, again, no disrespect to Pac, right? I love Tupac and I got motivated from Tupac, but that was my role model. You know what I mean? And so so it was first thug life before it was like, let's get out and like be like hug life. You know, like let's get out there and like love on people.
Yeah.
You're right. And like, and actually understand what it means to be like the best human possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, our role models are evolving. Our idea of what education is evolving. We are just realizing through our technology that we're connected and that technology is allowing us to reach better people, more aligned with our values and our goals. And my suggestion to everybody that's out there that's kind of lost or thinking, you know, what do I do with my life? Look in first.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. It starts with you. So, man, this has been an awesome podcast, dude.
Yeah, likewise, dude. It was a great
chat. I always enjoy seeing you, man, every time I'm in Phoenix.
Same.
Yeah, that's the whole point of The Wealthy Way and why I created it and why I wrote the book and everything else is like, I've just seen too many people over the years think that you have to sacrifice in order to have success. And the part that doesn't really make sense to me is most people think at some point in the journey, you have to like forget everything, right? So whether for most people, they think it's the beginning. They're like, oh, well, in the beginning though, you have to kind of like push everything away and focus only on business. And at some arbitrary random point, it just stops. And now you can have balance.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're somehow going to just turn the switch.
Yeah.
And by the way, by having a lot more success, you suddenly don't have more problems and more responsibility and more things to do. And, you know, to your point, you see like Grant, it's like, you don't think running his company and having billions of real estate and all these students and stuff, like he's got a lot of things on his plate. But like you said, you know, his family's there. You see the life he's living. It's like, I'm pretty sure he's been living that way for a while now. And it's led to the success. It's not, he has success, now therefore you can do this.
Right.
And I've said that forever with The Wealthy Way. I'm like, guys, when I was flipping couches, when I was playing baseball, when I was just flipping a few houses, to when I'm doing it now, my life's been the same. Like I don't work weekends. I just have not for like as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. The only time I worked weekends is when I played baseball because I had to.
Right.
The game's on the weekends.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But then I get 6 months off and I can do whatever I want. But most people just kind of don't believe it. They think that you have to have success first before you can quote unquote have like retirement or whatever it is that's going to allow you to have free time now. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. In fact, like you had just said, the magical arbitrary point where things sort of balance out for you or where you get enough time to balance out, that doesn't exist. And I think that the reason why people believe that is because they haven't walked the journey. They haven't seen it. But then there's people like yourself, people like myself, people like Grant, people like Pace that are honest and transparent about the journey. And when we stumble and fall, we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's also say, like, have I had moments where I could have been a more present husband?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had moments where I could have been a better dad and a more present father? Absolutely. But am I going to focus on the fact that I could have been better and wallow in that? Or am I going to be better? That's the thing, right? And so if you're watching this again and your heart says maybe later, no, it's now.
Yeah, totally agree. I think a lot of it is just excuses. And like I even have said, even on the real estate side, people who have not been taking action have said, well, the market's too hot. I don't want to do this, right? And then, okay, here it is. The market's less hot. And they're like, well, the market's too cold now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I'm like, so you're waiting for like that perfect moment when the market's just right.
Right.
And, you know, I don't even know what that is.
Right.
Like, what does that even mean? But even if it were there, how long is it going to be there? You're only a fair weather investor.
That's it.
Or fair weather businessman.
It's the person who buys the gym membership on January 1st. And by, the end of January, it's over. It's that person who always folds on themselves that puts themselves in that situation.
Well, you're big into mindset. How do you get over that if you're that person? Like, how do you develop the confidence to go succeed? How do you develop the discipline to go do that? Maybe you've never had true discipline. Maybe you don't deserve to really have confidence because you haven't done things that would bring you confidence. Like, it's that kind of chicken and the egg thing of like, I have so much confidence because of the things I've done, but I've only been able to do the things I've done because I have confidence.
Right.
So how do you break through?
Well, you and I are different, right? Like you're a handsome guy, you're physically great shape, you've got a lot going for you. I think naturally you came out a cooler egg than I did, right? and that's fine, like I love you and I think that's great and I'm happy to know you and all the things. I had not necessarily had those, genetically I'm predisposed to be chubby, right? I have had little man syndrome for a long time in my life where I felt unconfident and I felt like I had to prove myself and I had to like overcompensate a lot. And I've had moments where I wasn't disciplined. I've shared in the past that, I struggled with alcoholism in the past and that was tough for me, right? And so when that is a reality in your life and things aren't perfect, okay, so they're not perfect. But they'll never be perfect unless you start doing things to change it, right? You've got to take baby steps. You've got to do one little thing. And I learned that when you do one little thing and you do it over and over and over again, then that becomes a part of who you are. Then you can add another little thing and you do it over and over again. And then you add another little thing and you do it over and over again. And what ends up happening is you create this chain of consistency that turns you into a Ryan Pineda. Or a Jamil or a Pace, because you get the things that make you better. And as you gain that little baby step of continuity in your life, that consistency of showing up for yourself just in this one little way, and all the other ways cannot matter right now, but I'm going to show up for myself in this way today. And then that happens and it happens consistency for a time. And now this just becomes a part of who you are. Right. And then now you don't even have to question if you're going to do that anymore because it's what you do. Right. So then now you have space to add to that. Yeah. And I think that's how people grow. I think that's how people develop.
I agree. I'll give you my observation as somebody who, to your point, I was born with a lot of skills that many people didn't have, right? Like I was always a very confident person going into things because maybe I was just better athletically or whatever the case was. I'm like, dude, I'm going to dominate this. I always do. We're good. And to a degree, that kind of was my path for a while until you finally get smacked, right? And for me, I got smacked going into pro baseball where, you go through high school, you're the man. You go through college, you're the man. You get into the pros and you're like, damn, everyone's the man.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm the smallest guy on the team now.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
All these guys are 6'5", they're big. I'm 5'10". like literally the smallest guy on the team. You go from being the big dog to the small dog.
Right.
And you go from having to fight for playing time to having other guys who literally have nothing to lose. Like these guys are coming from the Dominican, they're coming from Latin America with no money, nothing. And if they don't make it, their life,
it's over.
It's done.
It's life or death.
Right. And so I really got smacked in the face during that time. And like, I went from being a cocky, arrogant guy to like, man, dude, I've really been humbled. And like, I already know, like I have glimpses of arrogance and things coming back out where I'm like, dude, yeah, check yourself, because you are not the biggest, baddest dude like that you may think you are in this very moment. But what I will say is confidence, when used properly, not arrogance, not cockiness, but like belief in what you are doing, that you are going to succeed, that despite all the odds, despite the market, despite your lack of knowledge or expertise in something you're getting into, you're going to succeed. Like that takes blind faith, that takes confidence. So anybody who tries to say, well, you know, I'm going to just be humble and whatever, like, no. Inwardly, whether you say it or not, you have to have confidence that you're going to win. And I think that it all starts from within, right? Like you have to have belief in yourself and what you are doing to do it right and to succeed. Because the reality is the odds of success are extremely low in everything we do. When you started Keegley, the odds of you succeeding were like infinitely low. But you went into it like, hey, knowing that it's still low, I'm going to still do it.
Yes, sir.
And I believe we're going to do great. You know, the odds of you getting a TV show,
even lower,
extremely low. Yeah. But you're like, look, I believe in myself. I believe I have the talent for TV. I'm going to do it. You should not believe that, by the way.
Yeah.
But we do it.
It's magical thinking.
Yeah. And I think you just have to believe things that nobody else believes. That is the only way you can really start to do amazing things. Because if you just look at the statistics, or you look at what other people do and your friends and your family and everyone else, you would be like, yeah, there's no way I can do this.
Right. You're absolutely right. I also think though that, you know, you're a man of faith, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe fundamentally that we're all connected. Every one of us has a connection to our Creator and to each other. And if you really want something, and if that desire has good intent behind it, and you pursue it and pursue it and pursue it and pursue it, and you collaborate with a higher power, with your Creator, and you know, some people might look at that and say, Jamil, I'm not here for that, and that's okay if that's not for you. Even if that higher power is a higher version of yourself, whatever that is, right? I think that when you collaborate with that source, that energy, I think that mountains move. I think that the impossible becomes possible. I think all of the things that bro, the moon pulls the ocean onto the earth. You know, like look at what can happen out there. Just look at it. And we know fundamentally in science, like we're not even solid.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. Right. And to think about that, to actually like, guys, and what I just said isn't crazy, right? You think I'm solid. I think I'm solid. You think you're solid, but we're not. So when you look at the fact that not everything is what it seems, you really get an understanding that on an energetic, spiritual way, that you can accomplish way more than the physical limits of this shouldn't be, or this is too hard, or the likelihood of. I think that your spiritual limits are where you will give yourself free reign to just be the best. And you can walk into that.
Yeah. With me, what I have realized is when I'm just reliant on me, it's very hard to do because I am what I am. I'm a man who struggles with a lot of different things. I have my own limitations, my own self-limiting beliefs. I have my own, things that I struggle with. But I know when I have my faith and when I know that I feel God's calling me to do something, that gives me a totally different set of confidence that I could not muster on my own.
Amen.
You cannot manufacture that kind of confidence.
Agreed.
And so anything I've ever felt like God was calling me to do, despite all the odds, despite what was happening, and I've gone into it just like with obedience and like blind faith, it's always worked out every time.
That's it.
And the things that I've done should not have been done, but when you have, the power of God behind what you're doing, it's not really fair.
But we all have that. I think that's the thing, right? Every one of us has a purpose in life. Every one of us has a calling. Every one of us is connected to our Creator.
Right.
And many of us have just allowed other people's opinions of who we are to become the reality of what we are. But when you strip away all the stuff, all the things that your parents told you that you couldn't do, all of the things that the people around you said were impossible, when you strip all the negativity and you strip all of the dullness, the killing of your dreams, all of the things that told you no, when you strip it all away, fundamentally, there's still a dreamer there. There's still somebody with a wide open heart and a blue sea of opportunity. And when that is where you're connecting to on a daily basis, brother, there's nothing you can't accomplish.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. So, for anyone listening right now, I would just say, in order to do big things and in order to have success and get away from inaction, number one, it starts from within.
Yes, sir.
Spiritually, belief in yourself. And if you don't have that, nothing will happen on the outside.
100%.
You're not making any moves.
Yes, sir.
Right? But what you see too is once you take that first step and that belief and you go and start taking action, to your point, you start getting a little win here, a little win there. You're not getting big wins, right? You're not having a viral video or getting a deal right off the bat, right? But you're getting a little win. You talked to a seller. You made a video and released it. You registered the LLC, like you took a little step. Now you got to take the second step, right? You can't just stay in this zone of whatever it is. Like you got to keep getting to the next level. And sure enough, the more success you have, the more confident you grow, which allows you to take more action, do more things. Like I know for me at this point, the fact that I've started so many successful businesses now gives me the confidence to go and start another one that may have nothing to do with what I've done to this point.
Yeah.
Could be a different industry, could be a different, thing. And I'm like, I'm going to crush it just because I have faith in what I'm doing, and your confidence just grows over time. And I think it kind of sucks that it's like this momentum building thing, because it's like starting is so hard. When you're just starting here, you're like, man, am I even moving? Like, am I making any progress at all? And then over time, it starts to compound and you're like, whoa, I'm making progress. And that's what I've noticed in my life is like, I've seen it now with hindsight of like, dude, making videos every day for the last 2.5 years, starting to really create some cool stuff.
It does.
It wasn't doing that when I first started.
Right, but collaborating as well. Like you said the word momentum, and I want to highlight this fact because I'm a science nerd and I like looking at the physics of things. And I learned in physics that the formula of momentum, P equals mv, okay? Momentum equals mass times velocity. Okay? So in order to gain momentum, one of two things has to increase, or both things have to increase. The mass of the work that you're doing, the mass of the thing, or the velocity, the speed in which you do it. See, when you came out fast, bro. Like you came out with an acceleration or a speed that I think was unmatched. You were a meteor, right? And I was just like, wow, look at Ryan go, Add to that mass, squatting up with people, right? How does Ryan become more massful or heavier? I gotta be like you, dude.
Well,
yeah, you connect with heavyweights, right?
Yeah.
And then look at what you did. I saw you on other podcasts and other channels and doing other things with other influential people that had huge followings. And then all of a sudden, Ryan's momentum grows even further. And guys, it doesn't you can look at physics formulas and apply that to life in so many ways. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Momentum is mass and velocity. Find people to squat up with to increase your mass and figure out how to go fast and you'll get momentum.
Personal branding 101. So why should you create content? Well, there's a few reasons for this. Number one, there are lots of new opportunities that come from creating content. There's always going to be new opportunities
when you start creating content, people know about you. Because guess what? How is anybody going to work with you if they don't know who you are, right?